Alright, this is what you're gonna run into in all your mobile homes. You're gonna end up with floor joists that go out and underneath the wall here, which is not much more, sometimes just a little bit bigger than 1x4 for framing, but it is 1.25 inches, and usually not more than 2.5 inches wide. But all that's concerned with us is supporting the floor and not losing any support. If you notice, usually the bottom framing of the framework here is a 1x2, 1x2.5. They don't use a full 2x. But what we're doing is supporting the floor. So we're going to measure is 15.25 in between the two. In this case, there's a cable wire I've got to be concerned about, so I'll end up putting the board back here a little bit, so it'll have a way to pass through. But I'll be laying it on its side from here to here. So I'll mark 15.25. But then I get into an interesting situation over here. I've got to support this wall also, which is actually supported by the floor joist right here. So it's not as important for the support, but I've got to be able to have support out here for the floor without it rolling off. If I just fasten two here, the further out I get from that floor joist, the more it's going to want to roll as weight gets on it. And usually you put your weight up against the wall. So to help my situation, I'm going to build out, I'm going to put a 2x something here and probably another one here to space it out. And guess what? There's a frame usually about 30 feet from the outside, and every one of these floor joists sit on it, and we're going to sit on that also. We're going to get some support going across there by sitting on the frame and fastening to the outside. So we'll carry you through that as we do that, and you'll get some ideas. There's always another situation, and there's always more to learn. What I did was went outside and cut the measurements that I had here, and I actually mark on the boards because sometimes I'll run like 4 or 5 in a row. So this one says 15.2. This one says 14.5. And this one is 13, which is down here. They put in boards right here, and I'm okay with that. They tried to use finish nails to hold it, so I went ahead and put screws in it and moved them into place. They'll work. I really don't go that way. You can build out, which I've seen videos of another guy doing it. You end up running into a lot of troubles with screws, staples, cables, wires. You'd have to notch your boards to sit flat a lot, and even then you're going to end up with a swelled up wood that's going to keep you down. There's a lot of issues trying to get directly underneath there. I understand why you're doing it. Good luck with that. Because my experience is these houses going down the road and sitting for 20 years or moving to another place, they're never straight. So what we're trying to do is get a flat floor, as flat as possible. Doing that, we're going to put in this case, you don't have to use a 2x6. I happen to have 2x6s. We're going to put them in here, and then I'm going to fasten through the side. I prefer to get this one, and we're going to see how much of a difficult thing, seeing it's not even cut right. So I have to get it down. See how you get it? Quite often it's terribly frustrating because it'll be tight to go in and then fall That's part of the reason that people don't do it right, because it's hard. And guess what? Life is hard to live if you're going to work hard. If you're going to live right. They don't ever show that in the movies. The guy who works hard all day, does the right thing, keeps on doing the right thing day after day. That's hard. Nobody wants to do a movie about that because it's not quite as exciting. But it's hard to do. Don't look for it to be easy. If it's easy, then look for something. The other shoe's going to drop soon. Figure out some way to prop this up. There's a screw holding me. I've had to use big bars or long 2x4s to pry up on it, and if I didn't have help, I'd put blocks on the end of it using a fulcrum and another block to keep it from going down too far. So there's a lot of ways you can do it if you have to do it by yourself. In this case I have some help, but I want you to know that you can, because you're Americans, not Americans. So I'm a little bit worried about that, so I'll probably put a scrap underneath here to make sure it stays. I happen to have one right there. And I'll space that out so that if I put a 2x on that, it will allow me to be out here on the outside of the wall. If I use a 2x6, I can literally sit right on the frame and go that direction with a spacer against. But what I'm going to do is, because I'd have to have a really long 2x6, and I don't think that I can support it very well, I'm probably going to go with a 2x4, pan that over there, all the way from here to right here. Now you say 2x4, you can use a 2x6, but you can also use a 2x4 and then lay a 2x anything on its side right here, and you'll be the same as a 2x6, so it will be the same height here. So what I'll do is I'll put a spacer here, any kind of 2x material here, right above that frame, which I showed you where it was. And then the 2x4 will sit on that and screw to that. So we'll span, I'll have some spacers along that way to screw to, and we'll have a lot more weight support that way. Okay, what we're doing now is we've notched to get us a little bit extra strength so I can go around this. I've measured to the center of the frame here. I put a spacer on, I've spaced it out here, and we're going to go right like so. Inches past. 1.5 deep. Then we'll set flat on that, and we'll be where we need to be. In this case, there must be something underneath here, but it was pretty close. I can readjust it. Best thing about screws, you can adjust it over and over. I'm going to put another couple of screws here and more into the spacer back there. That should be really strong. She had bookshelves right here, so I expect it to be bookshelves again. I'm going to put maybe 3 more spacers along there. Then I'll measure to that 2x6, which is 73 3/4. And I'll notch another 3.5 inches. So we'll connect to that, and we'll be fastened really, really strong. 73 3/4 and notch. Just follow my. Okay, I went ahead and adjusted this. I didn't like how that was sitting up. I cut it down a little bit here and cut it a little deeper over there. Refastened it. I cut in the board with 3.5 inches going underneath, and over here it's screwed. I put in spacers against that joist, so this would build out, and screwed that. So there's a high traffic area. I want to make sure there's support there. Eventually we'll be replacing this floor. We're going to play the game like it's going to be right there. Now I've also cut the plywood. This particular plywood is 23 30 seconds because they've been cheating people for so long that 2x4s are not 2 inch by 4 inch, and 3/4 plywood is not truly 3/4. Now they're making you do a little bit of math. This is actually 23 30 seconds when you go to Lowe's. It is tongue and groove. That means right here there's a groove, and then this is the tongue. So we'll have to manhandle that in there, and if you don't do it with tongue and groove, you can go ahead and put wood underneath each space, and that way you won't get movement. If you don't have tongue and groove, you will have to put those 2x in there, or otherwise this sheet and this sheet will move as people walk on it, and whatever covering you'll have right there will have a line in it. So if you're not using tongue and groove, which is fine, and I recommend you have at least 5/8. This is close to 3/4 for your floor replacement. When you do, put 2x everywhere you cut at an angle. Put in a 2x, stitch it together with screws. And in this case, we have tongue and groove. We won't have to worry about that. This is actually made for flooring. So that's what you're going to see next when we get back. Is this will be in place, screwed down. We'll have to manhandle it in. It'll be some hammering, and whenever you're hammering, take your hammer and a scrap piece of wood. Instead of hitting on this wood and damaging it, take a piece of scrap wood and smack that. Alright, I guess I'll show you at some point. There's another video on there. It's like an hour and a half long on how to put these floors in. It has a lot of tips. But we cut this in, got a little bit tight, and I wanted it tight, and then I hammered on it while I was sitting on it that way, and then I hammered on it, and I had to put my foot down to try to get that groove in, and we hammered on it that way. Now we put 1.5 inch screws, which will go through this thing 3/4 of an inch into the floor joist, and I'm putting screws on the outside edges every 6 inches. Now, how do you know if you got 6 inches? Well, it's absolutely not that crucial that it be 6 inches. So what I tell my guys, take your finger and your thumb and be inside of your finger and thumb like that. And then on the field, we want to have 16 inches or so. And how do you know that? Well, I tell my guys to go from your wrist to your elbow. And generally, you can guess it. And you could be more, is not a bad thing. I'm using an impact driving screw gun. I like Ryobi because mathematically it's the best for the money. but it's constantly driving that tip down in there. Now if you use just a regular drill, it will tend to twist up and get up on top and try to strip. So sometimes you'll end up having to let off a little bit on the drill if you get used to it and drop back down in. An impact keeps pounding that thing into that tip so it doesn't strip as much. That's that hammering noise that you hear. We're not going to match exactly because I believe this floor in the kitchen has been wet, so it's swelled up. I will put floor leveler in there to make it close. It's my 265 pounds. That'll give you an idea of what kind of strength. And then we'll be putting this all in with screws. Everything will be screwed down. Everything's going to be fastened with screws. And I'll try to take you along the way. But believe me, there's several other flooring situations. And I'll try to give you guys as much as different situations. Like I've replaced little tiny bathrooms, replaced right in front of the air conditioner, a whole house. It'll be a frustrating situation, but hang in there. Screws will back out, you can cut it, set it back in. Personally, I had to learn this over the last 20-30 years. So I've been in this area 26 years and I'm still learning. So don't go into it. Nobody taught me this. Somebody taught me the wrong way. I had to learn that that's not a very good way, and I won't even bother telling you who that was. But every time you try to cut corners, you're going to pay a price. My mother used to say, rebellion has a price. Well, rebellion is when you know what's right and you don't do it. So do the right thing, guys. Take the extra time, use screws, not nails. Use thicker wood, don't overlay it. Because if you overlay this over top of the existing floor, the floor below will not only swell up like we had here, won't give you, you'll have to smash that down. Then they'll be standing on the staples because eventually all that wood will deteriorate and your floor will move. Within 4 or 5 years, if not quicker, it'll be moving all over the place because it'll be standing on staples in one place and not on wood on the other place. It's a horrible idea. Knuckle under, quit being a rebellious person, do what you need to do. Okay. Guys, over and over again when you put in or patch a floor, you end up with one being just a little bit higher than the other, little indentions, cracks in between, and you don't really want to put your tile on that because that will eventually show up through your linoleum or through your tile. So you have to mix a floor leveler, and this particular is called Fast Setting Deep Patch. Extremely expensive, but the bigger the package, the way better price. You can get one for 1/3 of this for $17, or you can pay $25 for this, or $35 for one twice this size. It's really stupid. They're just making money on the package. So I'm going to tell you, there are a lot of different ways that people will tell you to mix. Some people mix it up by hand with anything. I've seen butter knives. Some people start with a finishing knife. That's how I started. Stick it in a pan and mix it around. You can do that. You can use a stick. But I'm going to show you what I do. What I do is put about 1 inch, maybe a little more of water in this pan. And then I pour used to use the beaters, plastic beaters that you use for mixing eggs and all that kind of stuff. I used to buy it from Walmart and all those other places, garage sales, and then they would burn up. So I just started taking those beaters, and I get them at thrift stores and such, and then I use this electric drill. Then for the nuts, so I'm going to end up adding more, but I'm going to make sure that what I've got in there is got pretty mixed. I do the same thing with 20-minute drywall finishing mud and 45-minute drywall finishing mud. I do the exact same setup, except it's not. That's for drywall. Get all worried about how do you tell when it's right. Okay, you don't want it as thick as peanut butter, and you don't want it loose enough to fall off the knife. So somewhere beyond peanut butter. They like to use, I don't know why, the word plastic-like consistency. There is nothing plastic about that you spread on the floor. So what we're going to say is like a really thick soup. It's not so thick as it's like peanut butter. Then,
you want to mix that up?
no. I'll buy them for a quarter a piece. And they build up, and I smack them a little bit, and it falls off. So that's a good question. I want to fill that crack. A little bit stiff, but I'll deal with it. We're trying to hide where that crack is at. So mind you, that crack's probably never going to move because I've got screws and wood underneath that. And if you've watched any of my other videos, this is a separate video on just how to do this. If it's low on one side, you want to build up on that side. Mind you, we're going to be putting glue over all that. So there's what I do. And we're going to do it all the way through all the cracks, so it'll be hard to find the cracks. Okay, this is a way I was originally taught by a flooring guy. I don't typically do that anymore. He would just pour out a bunch of them on the floor. He would make a hole in the center, and then he would pour water in it. And this is exactly. I mean, I'm not trying to make it look bad. This is the way he did it. Sit there and mix it on the floor. Jan, I have these cups of water ready to go. I'm not running to a sink. evolution as being something that gets better with transformation as time passes. This is what I came from. So we're de-evolutionizing.
Hey, there's two showings in the house, one today one today? One today, let me think, oh shit, there was one yesterday. No, one Wednesday, I think one today. Never had to show me today, and a couple of them I got off my heard, yay.
So again, we get that
So, either
consistency.
looking quietly up, or not